In the original timeline, during the Battle of Coruscant, Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi successfully rescued Chancellor Palpatine from General Grievous's ship. In the climactic confrontation, Anakin defeated Count Dooku in a lightsaber duel, encouraged by Palpatine to execute him in cold blood. Torn between duty and temptation, Anakin made the fateful choice to kill Dooku, a decision that would lead him further down the path to the dark side. But what if Anakin had chosen not to strike him down? The roar of clashing sabers echoed through the dim chamber as Anakin and Count Dooku fought fiercely. Sparks flew with every blow, the red and blue lightsabers a blur of motion. Anakin's fury was palpable, his strikes growing heavier and faster, driving the aging Sith Lord backward. Dooku attempted to counter with precise and calculated movements, but Anakin's power was overwhelming, his raw strength too much for the elder warrior. With a swift, decisive maneuver, Anakin disarmed Dooku, sending the Sith's red saber into Anakin's hands. Panting heavily, Anakin leveled the blades at Dooku's throat, the sabers humming with lethal potential. The Count, now kneeling, had a flicker of fear crossing his otherwise composed face. Chancellor Palpatine, shackled in his seat, leaned forward, his voice calm, but dripping with venom.
Good, Anakin. He's too dangerous to be left alive.
Anakin stared down at Dooku, his thoughts a storm of conflict. Palpatine's voice whispered in his mind, urging him to strike, to claim power, to end the Sith Lord's reign here and now. But another thought gnawed at him. What if Dooku knew the truth about Sidious? If he captured the Count alive, the Jedi could finally uncover the identity of the puppet master, orchestrating the galaxy's suffering. But killing him now, killing him would show everyone, the Jedi included, just how strong he had become. It would silence their doubts, force them to see him not as a reckless knight, but as someone worthy of their respect. Even Sidious himself might recognize his potential. Anakin's grip tightened around his lightsaber. The urge to act surged through him, but just as he began to raise his weapon, a groggy voice broke through the tension.
Anakin, no!
Anakin turned sharply to see Obi-Wan, weak but awake, struggling to push himself upright against the restraints of the fallen debris. His eyes locked on Anakin's, and in them, Anakin saw concern, pain, and trust.
He is already defeated,
Obi-Wan said hoarsely.
Killing him now would make us no better than him.
Anakin hesitated, his internal battle raging. The Jedi way, the code, the principles Obi-Wan had spent years instilling in him, they clashed violently with the tantalizing promise of respect and power. He glanced at Dooku, who was watching silently, his calculating mind surely churning with schemes to turn the situation to his favor.
Fine, we'll take him with us,
Anakin said, finally deactivating his saber and clipping it to his belt. Obi-Wan nodded weakly, his relief evident. Anakin turned to Palpatine, who watched with veiled disappointment but quickly masked it with a gracious smile.
We must hurry. This ship won't hold together much longer.
Anakin leaned down, grabbing Dooku by the arm and hoisting him to his feet. The Sith Lord gave a small, derisive chuckle.
You'll regret this, Skywalker.
Dooku sneered.
I am the leader of this vessel. Do you think my forces will let you simply walk out with me as your prisoner?
Anakin's expression hardened.
If they try to stop us, they'll regret it.
Obi-Wan, still recovering, stood with Anakin's help, and together they began to make their way toward the hangar. Dooku walked under guard, his sharp mind undoubtedly calculating his next move. The ship groaned under the strain of the ongoing battle, explosions rattling the corridors as Anakin, Obi-Wan, and their captive, Count Dooku, pushed forward. The sounds of blaster fire and the rumble of distant detonations grew louder, signaling the escalating chaos around them. "Stay close," Anakin ordered, keeping his lightsaber ready as he led the group through the dimly lit passageways. Obi-Wan limped slightly but managed to keep pace, his focus sharp despite his injuries. Dooku, handless and bound by restraints, walked with a composed yet calculating air. Though physically incapacitated, his sharp mind worked furiously.
You Jedi are predictable. This will not end the way you hope.
Enough. You'll have plenty of time to talk when we reach the council.
The group rounded a corner, approaching a hangar bay filled with battle droids. Anakin wasted no time, igniting his lightsaber and charging into the fray. Obi-Wan followed, his movements deliberate but effective despite his weakened state. Blaster fire erupted around them as the Jedi carved a path through the droids, their goal tantalizingly close. As they neared the ship they intended to commandeer, a loud metallic clang echoed behind them. Anakin turned just in time to see General Grievous emerge from the shadows, his glowing yellow eyes fixed on the group. The cyborg's raspy laugh filled the air as he stepped forward, 4 lightsabers igniting in unison. "Ah, Count Dooku," Grievous rasped. "It seems you're in need of assistance." Dooku's lips curled into a sly smile, but his hands, severed at the wrists, rendered him unable to physically assist in his own escape. Still, his presence remained a rallying point for the general. Anakin and Obi-Wan positioned themselves defensively, but Grievous moved with terrifying speed. One of his mechanical arms shot out, knocking Anakin back and disrupting his balance. Another claw extended toward Dooku, grabbing him and hoisting him into the air.
Skywalker, even without hands, I'm beyond your reach.
Grievous!
Anakin shouted, surging forward, but Grievous spun his lightsabers with incredible speed, creating a nearly impenetrable wall of light and energy. Obi-Wan, recognizing the danger, called out,
Anakin, stay focused.
In the chaos, Grievous retreated toward an escape pod, carrying Dooku like a trophy. The pod door sealed with a hiss, and the vessel launched into space before the Jedi could intervene. Anakin slammed his fist against the wall. Frustration and failure etched across his face. Obi-Wan placed a steadying hand on his shoulder.
We'll get another chance, Anakin. For now, we need to focus on getting out of here.
Anakin's jaw tightened, but he nodded, his anger simmering just beneath the surface. Without another word, they turned back toward the remaining ship, the echoes of Dooku's taunts still lingering in Anakin's mind. The war raged on, each battle exacting a heavier toll on the galaxy. Cities burned, star systems fell into chaos, and the Jedi were stretched thin, trying to maintain order. In the midst of it all, Anakin Skywalker carried a weight that no one else could see, a guilt that gnawed at his very core. He stood alone on the observation deck of the Jedi Temple, staring out at the endless traffic of Coruscant. The lights of the city glowed brightly, but to Anakin, they felt cold and distant. He clenched his fists, his thoughts spiraling.
If I had just done what the Chancellor said,
he muttered to himself, the words like poison on his tongue.
If I had killed Dooku when I had the chance, this war could have ended. Millions of lives saved.
He slammed his fist against the glass, his frustration boiling over. The Jedi Code had stopped him, their endless preaching about mercy, about restraint. But where had that gotten them? Dooku was free, the war continued, and the galaxy suffered. And for what? Some abstract notion of morality?
They don't understand.
Anakin whispered, his voice tinged with bitterness.
The Jedi. They don't see what needs to be done for peace.
Palpatine's voice echoed in his memory, smooth and persuasive. He's too dangerous to be left alive. The words made sense now in a way they hadn't before. Dooku's escape had emboldened the Separatists, and every victory they achieved felt like another personal failure for Anakin. He could feel the weight of every life lost, every city destroyed, pressing down on him. To the galaxy, he was the hero with no fear. But inside, he felt like a fraud, a warrior who had let his ideals cloud his judgment and cost the galaxy his chance at peace. Anakin took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but the anger, the guilt, the frustration, they wouldn't leave. They had become a part of him now, a constant reminder of what he believed was his failure. Far from the front lines of the war, Count Dooku sat in the shadows of his secluded stronghold, his mind consumed by conflicting thoughts. The dark side of the Force surged within him, feeding his anger and resentment. But this time, his fury was not directed at the Jedi or the Republic. It was aimed squarely at Darth Sidious. Dooku's mind replayed the events aboard the Separatist flagship. The moment Anakin Skywalker had him at his mercy, Sidious, his supposed master and ally, had shown his true colors. Kill him, Sidious had commanded. Dooku had always known Sidious was ruthless, but to be discarded so easily, to be used as a pawn and then abandoned, the bitterness was unbearable. If Skywalker had not chosen the Jedi way, Dooku thought grimly, I would be dead, my usefulness to Sidious extinguished. He rose from his chair, pacing the dimly lit chamber. Dooku had once believed in Sidious's vision of a reformed galaxy, one ruled by strength and order, but now the facade had crumbled. He was nothing more than a tool to Sidious, a means to an end, just like Maul before him. His thoughts turned to the Jedi. Years ago, on Geonosis, he had attempted to recruit Obi-Wan Kenobi, revealing the truth about Sidious. He had been honest, but his honesty had been mistaken for manipulation. Kenobi, ever the loyal servant of the Jedi, had refused to listen. But Skywalker was different. The boy burned with passion, with ambition. Dooku had seen it in the duel, felt it in the raw power of Anakin's strikes. Skywalker was no ordinary Jedi. He was impulsive, emotional, traits the Jedi despised, but which Dooku saw as potential. potential. Perhaps, Dooku mused, Anakin Skywalker could be persuaded. He had already defied the Jedi Code by sparing Dooku. That act alone suggested that Skywalker was not bound by their rigid doctrine. He had the capacity to think for himself, to act outside their constraints. Dooku's lips curled into a faint smile. If Sidious had abandoned him, then perhaps it was time to abandon Sidious. He would not allow himself to be discarded so easily. If he could turn Skywalker to his side, the two of them could challenge Sidious together. They could destroy the Sith Lord and reshape the galaxy on their terms. Yes, Dooku murmured to himself, his voice steady with newfound resolve. Skywalker will see the truth, and when he does, the galaxy will belong to us. For the first time in years, Count Dooku felt a spark of hope, not for the Sith, not for Sidious, but for a new path, one where he was not the pawn, but the master. Count Dooku moved with purpose through the shadowy corridors of his secluded sanctuary, his mind racing with the intricacies of his plan. He had spent weeks carefully orchestrating the perfect moment to confront Anakin Skywalker alone, exploiting the cracks in the Jedi's faith and the boy's simmering frustrations. Through coded messages and subtle manipulations of separatist movements, Dooku created a scenario that would draw Skywalker away from the Jedi and into his grasp. Every detail was accounted for, the location chosen to be isolated yet significant, the timing meant to exploit Anakin's growing doubts. This was no impromptu encounter. It was a meticulously planned gambit to reshape the future of the galaxy. For Dooku, this was not just an offer. It was his final, desperate move to topple Sidious and reclaim his destiny.
Dooku, show yourself. You can't hide forever.
I'm not hiding, Skywalker. I've been waiting for you.
You made a mistake if you think I'm here to talk.
Oh, but you will listen. The truth gnawing at the edges of your mind. The Jedi, they've failed you just as they failed me.
The only failure here is yours. You started this war. You betrayed the galaxy.
And who told you that? The Jedi? Palpatine? Have you ever questioned the narrative they've spun for you?
Palpatine has acted only in good faith.
Of course he has. After all, he's been orchestrating this war from the beginning. Palpatine is Darth Sidious, the Dark Lord of the Sith.
No, that's not possible. You're lying.
Think, Skywalker. Who benefits most from this endless conflict? Who has grown more powerful, more indispensable, while the galaxy burns?
If what you say is true, then why tell me? Why not let me kill you and prove him right?
Because that's exactly what he wants. Kill me and you'll solidify his hold over you. Or you can join me. The Jedi will do nothing with this knowledge. They are bound by their code, shackled by their inaction. But you have the power to act.
The Jedi wouldn't stand for this. They'd call it treason.
The Jedi will never understand what it takes to bring real peace. You've seen it yourself. Deep down, you know they've failed.
And what happens after Sidious is gone? You take his place. Another Sith ruling the galaxy?
No, Skywalker. Together we will ensure the galaxy is free of Sith and Jedi alike. No more manipulation, no more war, only peace.
Tell me how to end this war.
You've made the right choice, Skywalker. Together, we will bring the galaxy to its knees, and then to peace.
Dooku's scheme came to fruition on Coruscant, deep within the labyrinthine underbelly of the city. In the shadows of the sprawling metropolis, he had arranged the confrontation, luring Darth Sidious to a meeting with the promise of secrecy and control. What Sidious did not know, however, was that his former apprentice would not face him alone. Anakin Skywalker stood by Dooku's side, his expression cold and resolute. The weight of the galaxy's turmoil hung heavily on him, and his resolve to end the war burned brighter than ever. The two unlikely allies shared a moment of silent understanding before Sidious arrived, cloaked in the darkness of the Force. Sidious entered the chamber, his face calm, yet his yellowed eyes gleamed with sharp calculation. He had expected Dooku's betrayal. It was in the nature of the Sith, but seeing Anakin by Dooku's side gave him pause. Sidious's confidence did not falter though. A lifetime of manipulation and unmatched mastery of the dark side had always seen him prevail.
So,
Sidious began, his voice as smooth and menacing as ever.
you've chosen your fate, Count, and you, Skywalker. How predictable.
Dooku stepped forward, his lightsaber igniting in a blaze of crimson.
Your treachery ends here, Sidious. Together we will bring balance to the galaxy.
Anakin's blade ignited next, the brilliant blue light reflecting his unwavering determination. Sidious laughed, a low, sinister sound that echoed through the chamber.
Fools, do you truly believe you can defeat me?
The fight erupted with blinding speed, the air thick with the hum of lightsabers and the clash of titanic force powers. Sidious was a master of deception and dark energy, but he faced a formidable duo. Dooku's precision and experience were unrivaled, his elegant form a dance of deadly strikes, while Anakin's raw power and speed overwhelmed like a tidal wave. Sidious's confidence began to waver as the tide turned against him. His counterattacks grew desperate, his movements frantic as he was forced back step by step. The combined might of one of the galaxy's greatest duelists and the Chosen One proved too much, even for the Dark Lord of the Sith. In a final, devastating blow, Anakin's blade struck true, ending Sidious's reign of terror. The room fell silent, save for the labored breathing of the two warriors. Dooku turned to Anakin, a faint smile of satisfaction crossing his face. But that satisfaction was short-lived. Anakin's blue blade ignited again without warning, and in one swift, precise stroke, he ended Dooku's life. The Count's expression turned from surprise to resigned acceptance as he collapsed, his body crumpling to the ground. Anakin stood over the fallen Sith Lords, his breathing heavy, his mind racing. With Sidious and Dooku gone, the galaxy was finally free of their influence, but Anakin's heart was heavy, knowing he had taken yet another step down a path that might never allow him to return. The galaxy awoke to a new dawn. The truth of the Clone Wars, the manipulation of both sides by Darth Sidious, was revealed to the galaxy. With Sidious and Dooku gone, the Separatists surrendered, and the Republic began its long journey toward healing. For the first time in years, peace was no longer a distant dream, but a tangible reality. Anakin Skywalker, once the hero with no fear, was hailed as a savior, but he felt no pride in the title. The actions he had taken to bring peace, the choices he had made, weighed heavily on him. He stood before the Jedi Council one last time, his decision already made.
The Jedi Order
Anakin began, his voice steady but firm,
has lost its way. Its arrogance, its unwillingness to adapt, has blinded it to the realities of the galaxy. I cannot be a part of it anymore.
The council members exchanged looks, their expressions a mixture of shock and solemn acceptance. Obi-Wan stepped forward, his eyes filled with sorrow.
Anakin, you've brought peace. You could help guide the Order to a better path.
Anakin shook his head.
I've done what I needed to do, but the Order must find its own way. I have a different path to walk now.
And with that, Anakin left the Jedi Temple, his cloak billowing behind him, a symbol of his final severance from the Order. Years passed, and Anakin found solace in a simpler life, far from the politics and chaos of the galaxy. He settled on a remote world where he could focus on what mattered most. His family, Luke and Leia, his twin children, grew up under his guidance, learning the ways of the Force not as Jedi, but as their father believed it should be. He taught them balance, compassion, and strength, not the rigid doctrine of the Jedi, but the principles of a better path. He shared with them the lessons he had learned through his trials, ensuring they would not repeat his mistakes. Together, they became a symbol of hope, quietly ensuring that the peace Anakin had fought so hard to achieve would endure. Though the galaxy would remember him as a hero, Anakin found peace not in the adoration of others, but in the quiet moments with his family, where the Force flowed freely, unburdened by dogma or war. In his children, he saw the promise of a brighter future, one where the Force was a guide, not a chain.